After class, the school heartthrob and bully fixated on me. I was sent to check the boys' dormitory in place of my roommate, and there was the heartthrob lounging on his bed, barely caring, telling me to write down whatever I wanted. The next day, the report at the dorm entrance went viral. Lou Gunter, bed 4 of dorm 250, lay on his bed changing positions multiple times, but couldn't get it up. Vivian Wells, what have you done? When my roommate Doris Maud rushed in to find me, I had barely managed to sleep for 3 hours. What's wrong? Doris handed me her phone, her face filled with horror. You need to see this. I took a look, and it was an image that was trending on the confession wall, showing yesterday's dorm check results on the boys' dormitory blackboard. Dorm 203 was good, dorm 207 had an odor, and so on. The most eye-catching line was at the bottom. Lou Gunter, bed 4 of dorm 250, lay on his bed changing positions multiple times, but couldn't get it up. The comments had already piled up into hundreds. I'm dying of laughter. Haha, if this gets out, Lou Gunter couldn't get it up. Haha, who remembered this? I want to know her. Stop laughing. Lou Gunter hasn't even slept, just staring at his phone for a long time. I stared for a few seconds, slowly realizing that the her they were referring to was me, but there were reasons behind it. Doris Maud is the head of the school's health department. Yesterday was a large-scale health inspection, and all students were required to get out of bed for the dorm check. Short on staff, she had me check one floor, and when I got to dorm 250, there was only one person inside, buried under his blankets, sleeping. To be honest, I also hated doing the checks. Why should college students make things hard for each other? I originally just wanted to go through the motions, but who could have guessed that the school leaders were recording behind me? So, I poked the lump under the blanket. Hey, can you get out of bed to cooperate with the inspection? A bony hand emerged, waved impatiently, and then quickly retreated as he turned over. I was like, I glanced at the school leaders next to me, smiled, and said, can you wait until the inspection is over to sleep? Then I leaned in and whispered, if you stretch out your hand again, you're done for. I saw the blanket shift slightly. A foot came out. It was right in front of the school leader's face. The boy's voice was lazy and audacious. Write whatever you want. Since he said that, under the piercing gaze of the leaders, I noted it down as it was, but the wording was a bit problematic and had some ambiguity. Initially, I felt guilty, until I saw Lou Gunter's reply. Vivian Wells from Animal Medicine, class of 20. You're not even trying. How do you know I can't get it up? Then there were dozens of replies below. Several friends on Weshit even asked me when I became so familiar with Lou Gunter. I felt like a herd of llamas was stampeding over my head. Great. Don't even get me started on the others. They're not good either. Apologizing was out of the question. Mutual harm seemed fitting. When Lou Gunter cornered me downstairs, I was on my way to the infirmary. The boy in front of me was wearing a casual jacket, looking like he had just woken up, with some messy hair sticking up. He sized me up, probably noticing my dark circles, and sneered, those dark circles, are they a result of your conscience haunting you? The dark circles were actually a side effect of my long-term insomnia, but I had actually slept okay last night. I managed to sleep for 3 hours. When Lou Gunter asked me this, I rebelled. He was a campus icon, and hardly anyone didn't know him. As we spoke, a crowd of onlookers began to gather around us. So, with a guilty expression, I hugged his leg. I'm so sorry, Lou Gunter. It's all my fault. If I had tried harder, maybe you could have gotten up. I genuinely would have put in more effort, but you really showed no signs of being able to get up at all. The last few words I said with determination. Then I stole a glance at Lou Gunter's well. You know, the crowd's eyes widened, as if they had just caught wind of some huge gossip. Lou Gunter looked at me, with a blank expression. Are you sure you want to do this? Heh. Before I could react, Lou Gunter hoisted me up, and marched off. Then he tossed me onto the back of his electric scooter. Hold on tight. The whole way, I was on edge, and before I knew it, I fell asleep. Yes, it was surreal. I had severe insomnia, and falling asleep was extremely difficult for me. Yet here I was, somehow dozing off on the bumpy backseat of Lou Gunter's scooter, faintly dreaming of the big chicken leg in the cafeteria. 20 minutes later, I looked at the drool mark on Lou Gunter's back and fell into contemplation. It's my fault. Lou Gunter rubbed his forehead as we entered the infirmary. Why did he bring me to the infirmary? There's no way he knew I was coming and brought me here on purpose. Right. I followed him inside, feeling utterly confused. The school nurse was stunned to see us both. You two know each other. Lou Gunter and I exchanged wide-eyed stares. What? The school nurse pointed at Lou Gunter and said to me, he's the student I told you about who has hypersomnia. Then pointing at me, she continued, and she's the one with insomnia. You two are regulars in my clinic, and your conditions strangely complement each other. I've been wanting to introduce you for a while. How's your condition been lately? Lou Gunter shot me a complex look and said, I've been feeling quite alert today. The school nurse was surprised. That's rare. Do you know why? Lou Gunter replied, the only difference from usual is that she checked my dorm yesterday. He pointed at me, while I stood there dazed and said, to be honest, I've been insomniac for over 10 days. After checking the dorm yesterday, I fell asleep, and I also slept on your little scooter just now. The only difference is that I've been around you. After saying that, we exchanged a silent look, both sinking into thought. Clearly, we both realized a problem. Could it be that our conditions had gotten so severe that they affected others' energies? To test this theory, Lou Gunter and I agreed not to see each other for 3 days. So, I spent 3 days without sleep. If I hadn't experienced the light before, I could still endure the darkness. After sleeping well 2 nights ago, Lou Gunter became an addiction for me. On Wednesday morning, I dragged myself out of bed, with dark circles heavier than a panda's, and Doris Maud casually asked, Vivian Wells, why are you up so early? Looking for Lou Gunter to sleep with. Doris Maud was so shocked that her blush disappeared. What? I had already slipped on my shoes, and bolted out the door. Damn it, Lou Gunter, come sleep with me. What? I had never run this fast. Even when sprinting 800 meters. I reached the entrance of Lou Gunter's dorm and messaged him. But he didn't reply for a long time. This guy wasn't sleeping again, was he? With my dark circles and a pitiful expression, I squatted at the boys' dorm entrance waiting for him. Passersby glanced at me until a boy finally spoke up in confusion. I looked up, and he seemed to understand. You're here for Lou Gunter? I nodded vigorously, but Lou Gunter went to the infirmary. He fell asleep on his bike this morning and crashed into the flower bed in front of the library. It took 10 minutes for someone to notice because he was comatose. Oh no, he was just asleep. I didn't understand but was deeply shocked. Is it that easy for someone with hypersomnia to fall asleep? What? Can I have some of that illness? Please. There was no time to say more. I turned and rushed to the infirmary. Lou Gunter was half awake, sitting on the bed, staring blankly at the bright sunlight outside, looking numb and a bit lifeless. He looked like he was about to ascend to immortality at any second. I grabbed his sleeve, and he turned to meet my bloodshot, tired eyes. My voice was filled with longing. Let me sleep. Lou Gunter. He silently took out his phone. Hello, 110. I really want to sleep. I started pulling my hair in despair. Do you understand? That feeling of being utterly exhausted while your mind is wide awake. Do you know that despair? You don't understand. What? Lou Gunter had a complex expression. Do you understand the pain of falling asleep during an exam, and failing for 2 years in a row? We were at a loss for words. At that moment, silence spoke louder than words. Lou Gunter and I reached an agreement. As long as we had free time, we would be together. If this contact really helped our conditions, we would find reasons and solutions later. A week passed, and we discovered several patterns. The longer we spent together, the better the effects on our conditions. For example, if we spent an hour together today, I could sleep for 2 hours at night, while Lou Gunter could stay awake for 3 hours without feeling drowsy. The closer we were, the better the effects. After hearing our story, the school nurse exclaimed it was a medical miracle. Promise me you two will get along well. My doctoral thesis depends on you both. Ha ha. I thought we would continue living happily. Oh no, I meant cooperating. But on the 9th day, an unexpected event occurred. Logically, since we had enough contact time to sleep well that day, I should have been able to sleep that night. Yet I was restless. tossing and turning, staring at the bed curtain all night. The next day, I hurried to find Lou Gunter while he was in class. I peered in through the back door, and there was Lou Gunter sitting by the window, basking in the sunlight, half asleep. Sure enough, his hypersomnia had kicked in. Finally, the class ended, and just as Lou Gunter woke up, he glanced at me, quickly grasping my intention. He stood up to come out, but was suddenly blocked by a girl. She was babbling something I couldn't catch. Lou Gunter tried to move left, and she blocked him. He tried right, and she blocked him again. Oh my, I was getting impatient. I pushed my way in, grabbed Lou Gunter's wrist, and pulled him outside. The girl immediately shouted, "What are you doing? In such a hurry to reincarnate?" I sincerely nodded. "You know, college students can die easily." She glared at me in annoyance. "Are you sick?" I nodded a bit. "Yeah, Lou Gunter is my medicine." Seeing her stifled, I felt a sense of satisfaction. Suddenly, I heard a light chuckle from beside me. I shot Lou Gunter a glare, pulling him along as we walked toward the school park. I said, "You noticed too, right? Ordinary interaction isn't effective anymore." He looked drowsy and said, "Yeah, maybe you've drained me. You don't have to say anything if you can't." I stared at him a few times and dryly laughed. Could it be because we're not close enough? Lou Gunter raised his eyes abruptly. The sunlight filtered through the gaps in the sycamore leaves, casting mottled shadows on his face. He stepped closer and leisurely asked, "What do you mean by close?" I felt a bit dazed under his gaze, and stood on tiptoe to bump my forehead against his. Lou Gunter looked stunned for a moment. After a while, he rubbed his forehead and laughed. "Are you silly or what? This is what you call intimacy, isn't it?" Before I could respond, he grabbed my wrist, and the next second I found myself in a warm embrace. Lou Gunter's voice whispered in my ear, "Now this is intimacy." I could hear his heartbeat and let out a soft, "Oh." But this isn't the time for talking. But the vibe needs to be felt with your heart. I couldn't hold back any longer. But there are so many people. Lou Gunter paused, suddenly turning to look behind us. On the other side of the bushes, a campus reporter was snapping pictures of a line of people, all of whom were staring at us wide-eyed. The reporter slowly pointed the camera at us and took a shot. Even as he walked away, we could still hear his excited voice, "Tomorrow's campus gossip headline is definitely mine." Ha 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 ha. I was speechless. Lou Gunter was too. Sure enough, the next day, a piece of gossip about us was posted on the confession wall. It read, "Lou Gunter, unable to perform, has a broken relationship with his girlfriend, suspected to be drained dry, after desperately trying to salvage things. The two are seen in a warm embrace." I really wanted to meet this writer. Then I'd jump on their head, and see what kind of rubbish was inside. I felt I had to clarify this. Lou Gunter's reputation was almost gone, and it all stemmed from my typo, so I should resolve it. I contacted the writer of this gossip to ask for a retraction and scheduled a time to meet, planning to bring Lou Gunter along to explain everything, and have him write a clarifying piece to restore his good name. The plan was perfect, but on the day of the meeting, Lou Gunter was late. He arrived half an hour late, striding into the bubble tea shop, and rushing over to me, then blurted out, "Can you sleep with me tonight?" I was stunned. The campus reporter silently raised his camera, then put it down under my glare. He shockily picked up his pen. "Well, I guess this rumor couldn't be put to rest. Lou Gunter said he was in such a hurry because there was a basketball game between a university and the university tomorrow. This was the most important game for the school team this year. As last year's captain, he didn't have to play. But this afternoon, a key player accidentally broke his leg, and they urgently needed him. However, this year he had been suffering from narcolepsy frequently, and he really didn't want to take the risk of playing without any guarantees. To ensure he would be awake long enough, we needed to spend more time together today." That sounded a bit off, but in its literal sense, we needed to be close, and for a long time, which meant we'd have to sleep together tonight. I crossed my arms. "Hey, isn't this you begging me? What's in it for me?" Lou Gunter replied softly, "How about a ready supply of sleeping pills?" I excitedly dragged him out of the campus. "Let's get a room." Woo! Lou Gunter. But we left late, and since it was the weekend, All the decent hotels nearby were fully booked. We only managed to find a small inn. It would do for one night. Since we both had already showered, there was no awkward bathing segment, and we could just go to sleep. But I couldn't fall asleep. Why, you ask? Lou Gunter, the school heartthrob, 185 meters tall, with an 8-pack and striking features. And he smelled good too, with such a living, breathing person lying next to me. Not even a nun could sleep. Just then, Lou Gunter, unable to sleep either, turned his head to glance at me. Can't sleep. I nodded. He smiled slightly. Then let's do something fun, I replied. Heh. Half an hour later, our conversation went like this. You're amazing. How can you last so long? Careful, don't push it in too hard. Pull it out slowly. Don't use too much force. I'm going to burst. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door, and Lou Gunter and I exchanged glances. Lou Gunter opened the door, revealing a big guy with a red face. The guy hesitated, then said, Dude, this inn has terrible soundproofing. You guys should sleep early. I mean, I'm a grown man and my face is red from hearing all that. He stole a glance inside, and our eyes met. The guy was stunned. I had paper notes all over my face, one hand holding a skewer, and in front of me were building blocks. I was carefully trying to pull one out. I honestly didn't know who felt more embarrassed at that moment, me or the guy. After that little incident, I finally felt sleepy. I drifted off to a deep sleep, and didn't know how long it had been, when I found myself in a long, chaotic dream. I dreamed of a hairless cat we adopted that often lay on its back for belly rubs. I was happily dreaming when I rolled over, and my hand landed on smooth skin. In the dream, I was rubbing the cat's belly, and my hand unconsciously started moving around. Suddenly, I felt a bump. The sensation was different. Was the little cat pregnant? Why was it so hard here? So I absent-mindedly poked it. Beside me, there was a suppressed groan. Lou Gunter grabbed my hand, rolling over to pin me down. His ears were so red they looked like they were about to bleed, and he ground out, Have you had enough? I instantly woke up, glancing at his chest. Oh no, the color wasn't right. Damn, Vivian Wells, how can you think of this at a time like this? I shot a look at Lou Gunter, going on the offensive. Why are you shirtless? What do you want to do? Lou Gunter followed my gaze and looked down at his chest, as if electrocuted, quickly flipping back to put his shirt on, stammering, It was too hot at night. I unconsciously took it off. I'm sorry. Cough. I'm generous. I forgive you. Without waiting for Lou Gunter to respond, I hurriedly climbed up and made my escape. Their game was set to start at 11. I returned to my dorm, and found my roommates all dressed up, ready to watch the game. Doris Maud said, I heard there are a lot of handsome guys on the university's team today. Vivian Wells, do you want to join us to check it out? I wasn't really interested at first, but casually glancing at the photo of the university's basketball players that Doris Maud showed me, I froze. Isn't the guy standing in the center my neighbor? Gilbert Hood, who lives next door. He's 2 years older than me, and although we didn't interact much, he was my first crush. I absolutely had to go to this game. I rushed to do my makeup and find something to wear. Arriving at the gym just as the game was about to start, I scanned the court and spotted Gilbert Hood right away. Not exactly handsome, but still quite clean cut. He looked up unexpectedly, and I waved happily, but Gilbert Hood froze and then winked at me. My smile slowly faded. A bit cheesy, I wasn't sure, so I looked again. Suddenly, there was a burst of cheers from the sidelines, and I turned to see Lou Gunter, in a white jersey, effortlessly sinking a three-pointer. The moment he turned, our eyes briefly met. My heart inexplicably skipped a beat. The game ended, as everyone began to leave the gym. I was looking for Lou Gunter, when Gilbert Hood walked straight over to me, sitting beside me with a scent of sweat. Vivian Wells, it's been a while. You look even better. He pretended to flick his hair dramatically. He probably thought he looked cool, but I wiped away the beads of sweat that had splashed onto my arm, completely at a loss for words. I could only laugh awkwardly. It hasn't been that long. We saw each other last New Year. Gilbert Hood suddenly started sizing me up, grinning lewdly. Did you dress up especially for me today? I held back my reaction. Haha. Gilbert Hood, did you know I was coming and dressed up for me? I kept holding back. Haha. Gilbert Hood, you like pink so much. Is your underwear pink too? I couldn't hold back any longer. I waved my hand at him. Let me whisper something to you. Gilbert Hood grinned widely and leaned in closer, but I swung my arm and slapped him across the face. How's that for a pink handprint? What kind of violent girl are you? Don't you know how to be civilized? Gilbert Hood cursed and held his face, shouting. I raised my bag to hit him again. I soaked my belt in iodine, so I'm sanitizing while I hit you. How civilized. Gilbert Hood finally remembered to fight back after taking a few hits from me. He muttered something under his breath, raising his hand, but before his fist could land, it was intercepted mid-air. I turned in shock to see Lou Gunter standing beside me, his face stern. He twisted Gilbert Hood's arm, forcing him to back off, then kicked him to the ground, coldly saying, "Get lost." Gilbert Hood probably didn't take it well, and wanted to resist, but seeing his teammates leaving, he cowardly fled, cursing as he went. Hearing his words left me with mixed feelings. Lou Gunter sat next to me in the stands. I was feeling down. I didn't think he was like this. I remember he used to wear white tees and sport a clean crew cut, which was exactly my type. When I bumped into him in middle school, he would always smile at me. How could someone change so much? Thinking about my early crush made me feel terrible. I lamented. I shouldn't have come. My youth. Lou Gunter sat silently beside me for a while, then patted my shoulder, looking complicated. You can't blame yourself for poor taste. If you had known me back then, you'd have recognized the difference. I replied. Thanks. You really know how to comfort. A few days later, we agreed to go to the clinic for a checkup. When I stepped out of the dorm and saw Lou Gunter, I was taken aback. He had gotten a buzz cut, and his previously soft features now had a bit of a rebellious edge. Every girl passing by couldn't help but take a second look. Whoa, he had gotten even more handsome. Seeing me, he confidently said, this is how you properly rock a buzz cut. I couldn't help but laugh. When we reached the clinic, the school nurse asked us to record our sleep and mental state over the past few days. Lou Gunter and I sat at opposite ends of a table, but the weather had been a bit stuffy lately, and I dozed off halfway through writing. When I woke up, it was already dark. Lou Gunter stood by the window, looking conflicted. I have a bad piece of news and an even worse one. Which one do you want to hear first? My heart sank. I had a bad feeling. Give me the bad news, Lou Gunter said. My phone is dead. What kind of bad news is that? I frowned. What's the worst news then? Lou Gunter replied. You should go take a look outside. Confused, I stood up and walked toward the clinic door, but when I tried to twist the knob, it wouldn't budge. Why won't it open? Lou Gunter, that's the worst news. While I was sleeping, the door outside the infirmary was locked. Lou Gunter was wearing headphones and playing on his phone, waiting for the school doctor, and didn't hear anything. By 9 o'clock at night, we found ourselves, a lonely man and woman, locked in a tiny infirmary. I glanced at my phone charging outside and chuckled. It's fine. Someone will pass by and call for help. Besides, there's still light. What's there to be afraid of? Just as I finished speaking, the lights went out. I shivered and laughed nervously. No lights, but that's all right. We believe in science. As soon as I finished, my eyes fell on the calendar on the table, and I froze. The first day of the 10th lunar month, the Cold Clothing Festival, one of the 4 ghost festivals. 12. Saying I wasn't scared would be a lie, but I was trying to hold it together. Lou Gunter sat by the window and patted the seat next to him. Sit. I hurried over and sat down next to him, a breeze blowing past my ear. I shifted closer to Lou Gunter out of fear. Lou Gunter smirked slightly. Are you scared? I nodded vigorously. I was terrified by horror movies when I was little. It's all my brother's fault. He always tells ghost stories to scare me. I kind of envy you. What do you mean? Lou Gunter said. I wish I had a younger brother too. I glanced down at him. You don't have one. Lou Gunter. He expressionlessly brushed my hand away from his sleeve. I shamelessly grabbed him again. See, the atmosphere is much better now. Right, I'm not scared at all. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a white shadow outside the window and screamed, jumping straight into Lou Gunter's arms. Something's wrong. There's something out there. I didn't dare look outside. and held onto Lou Gunter's waist tightly. I felt Lou Gunter's breathing become heavier. He wrapped his arm around my shoulders, and said in a slightly hoarse voice, "Don't be afraid." Only then did I calm down and realize that this position was a bit inappropriate. I reluctantly pulled away from Lou Gunter, gathering my courage to look outside again. But he suddenly covered my eyes. "If you're scared, don't look. There's nothing outside." I nodded dazedly. "Oh." Then Lou Gunter told me several corny jokes to help me feel less scared. In return, I asked, "Do you listen to music?" Lou Gunter was taken aback. "Isn't your phone outside?" I said, "I'll sing for you." Lou Gunter chuckled, and I cleared my throat, ready to sing my secret song. It was 2 hours before we were rescued. We made it back to the dorm just in time for curfew and slept until dawn. The next day, Doris Maud, looking terrified, held out her phone and said, "Vivian Wells, don't go to the infirmary in the next few days." I was stunned. "Why not?" Doris Maud said mysteriously. "Wasn't it the cold clothing festival yesterday? I heard it's haunted." I knew it. The white shadow I saw last night wasn't just my imagination. The more I thought about it, the more terrified I became. Nervously hugging my little blanket, "Tell me more," Doris Maud continued. "Yesterday, the skateboarding club did a daring challenge. When a girl skated by the infirmary, she heard a terrifying scream. Soon after, they heard a singing sound. According to their description, it didn't sound like a human voice. It was horrific, with a bizarre tone, as if it were a folk curse. Something didn't feel right." Doris Maud played a recording circulated on the school forum, and I fell silent, hearing my own voice. Doris Maud shook her head. "In any case, you'd better not go to the infirmary for a while. That female ghost has some serious resentment." I felt pretty resentful myself. "Is my singing really that bad? Lou Gunter was laughing just last night." Oh, maybe it was a mocking laugh. Just then, I received a message from Lou Gunter, inviting me to have lunch together. He must have heard about the haunting and, feeling too embarrassed, I made up an excuse about having a sore throat from a cold to decline. Who would have thought? I ran into him while I was munching on chicken feet in the cafeteria. Lou Gunter scrutinized me. "A cold, sore throat." I glanced at the chicken feet I was holding with chopsticks and forced a smile. "Just let it in to scratch a bit, Lou Gunter." During lunch, Lou Gunter learned that I'd be going out for a month-long internship next week, and earnestly said he'd get me a gift. I received a box from him right before leaving. "What is this?" Lou Gunter raised an eyebrow. "You'll need it." Before I could open it, my advisor hurried me onto the bus. The classmates saw me holding a beautifully wrapped gift box, and their curiosity ignited as they urged me to open it. Overcome by vanity, I hesitated shyly. "Oh, there are so many people. It's embarrassing." Come on. This is from Lou Gunter. The wrapping is so pretty. It must be a bag. I guess it's shoes." My heart raced, and my hands trembled. With everyone watching eagerly, I opened the box. I pulled out a worn-out male pajama. A silence fell around me. The classmates blushed and turned their eyes to the window. The view outside is quite something. "Oh no, it's beautiful." I stuffed the pajamas back into my bag, curling up in my seat to call Lou Gunter. "What do you mean by giving me your worn pajamas?" It sounded like he was walking. The background noisy. "Aren't you going to be gone for half a month? If you can't see me, you can't possibly lose sleep for that long. I'll give you one of my pajamas to keep by your side at night. It might help a bit." I took a deep breath. "Your intentions are good, but just hold off on that." Then I suddenly remembered something, and asked him, "What about you? When I'm not around, don't ride your bike." "Okay. Sure. Make sure to hide if you're sleeping in class. If you get caught, you'll have to stand up to sleep." "Sure. Watch out and don't run into trees." I heard a low chuckle on the other end. "Vivian Wells, are you worried about me?" I was taken aback, my heart racing. Before I could think of a reply, there was a loud bang. I asked, "What happened?" Lou Gunter, "Nothing. Gotta hang up now." After hanging up, I felt worried that something had happened to Lou Gunter. I was about to ask his roommate, when I saw a freshly posted video on the confession wall. Lou Gunter was walking while talking on the phone, laughing foolishly, and then he bumped into a tree. What a fool, and kind of cute. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. It seemed Lou Gunter's pajamas really did help a bit. In the internship dorm, I didn't sleep well, but holding on to his pajamas allowed me to doze off a bit. One night, unable to sleep, I messaged Lou Gunter, "Are you asleep?" Lou Gunter, "No," I boasted. "Is it because I'm not around that you realize you can't live without me?" There was a moment of typing on the other end before he sent a voice message, lightly chuckling with affection. "Exactly. So hurry back and save me." It felt like he was coaxing a child, but I had no proof. Lou Gunter then asked, "Have you eaten?" "I just finished eating Nessa's corpse." Lou Gunter, I said, "Lotus root powder." Lou Gunter, he sent a long voice message that I knew without listening was him saying I was crazy. I typed with a grin, "I just love how you can't stand me, but can't do anything about it." Unfortunately, I didn't hold my phone steadily and ended up hitting my nose with it. It made me tear up. When I picked up my phone again, I realized I had sent half a message. "I just love you." "Oh no," I exclaimed and quickly hit the recall button. Hopefully, Lou Gunter didn't see it that fast. I felt a bit guilty, but why was I also a bit expectant? Oh no, it seems I've become addicted to Lou Gunter. No, it must be that after spending too much time together, I've become dependent. I'll return to normal after being apart for half a month. I thought this way and was convinced of it, until half a month later, after my internship ended, my advisor asked me with a heavy expression, "What is Lou Gunter to you?" I was shocked. "How do you know?" "No, Lou Gunter and I aren't anything." My advisor looked at me, somewhat gravely, "Are you sure?" Then he pointed at the small animals in the clinic and shouted, "These animals are all connected to him. If you don't call them baby before meals, they won't eat." My advisor looked up to the sky in despair. "Vivian Wells, how are you going to repay them?" I turned my head and locked eyes with a pig's innocent eyes. I felt a bit ashamed and looked away. While pulling my luggage back to school, I ran into the school nurse. She looked me up and down, and smiled. "You seem in good spirits. Have you recovered?" I froze. "Recovered?" The nurse nodded. "Yes. Lou Gunter came to the hospital for treatment before. During the time you were gone, his daily routine has normalized. What about you? Has your insomnia improved?" I felt mixed emotions and couldn't respond for a moment. After chatting casually with the nurse, I stood at the school entrance, my mind in a tangle. So Lou Gunter had been receiving treatment. He was trying to find a way to live normally without me, but I was becoming increasingly dependent on him. This wasn't good. After returning to the dorm, Doris Maud filled me in on the gossip that had happened at school during these days. I only remembered one thing. Lou Gunter had been looking for a senior in the medical department for 3 consecutive days. The beauty of the college. I saw a photo taken by a passerby of the handsome guy and beautiful girl dining together. Quite a match. Oh no, so he was in such a hurry to get better, and break free from me for this reason. I had to desensitize myself. Challenge. Go a week without depending on Lou Gunter. Day 1. Failure. At the basketball court, I saw him turn and run. Lou Gunter yanked my hat, and pulled me into the storage room like he was lifting a chick. He leaned closer, hands on either side of my head, staring at me meaningfully. "What are you hiding from?" I stared back and lied, "I'm not hiding." Lou Gunter said nothing. I lowered my voice, "Aren't you over me now?" Lou Gunter, "What?" Someone outside called him, and Lou Gunter grabbed my wrist, and pulled me onto the basketball court, pointing to a spot. "Wait for me over there." I nodded. Today is the final of the 5 schools league. Lou Gunter dominated the game with the school team, achieving a crushing victory. I sat in the crowd, applauding, when a girl next to me suddenly grabbed my arm, looking distressed. "Can you help me?" I was stunned. "Hey," the girl said, "I think my period just started, and my stomach hurts a lot. I need to go to the bathroom, but I still have to go up and present the medals to the championship team later. Can you take my place for a bit? Isn't that?" Before I could finish saying, "Appropriate," she pushed me into the line of hostesses, thanked me, and ran off. I felt a bit lost in the crowd. I was still dazed when I followed them onto the stage. Lou Gunter, as the captain, stood on the podium. When he saw me, a flash of surprise crossed his face, followed by a warm smile. I held up the gold medal to put it around his neck, but I was too short. Even on tiptoe I couldn't reach. Feeling a bit embarrassed, I gritted my teeth and said, "You need to lower your head." Lou Gunter replied. Okay. As he bent down, I stood on tiptoe, and at the moment the metal hung around his neck. Lou Gunter gently kissed my cheek. I was frozen in shock. When I looked up, I caught Lou Gunter's evasive gaze. My mind went blank, and I bolted away. That night, I lay in bed, feeling hyper as if I had taken a stimulant. At 11 o'clock, I called Lou Gunter. I want to add something to what I said earlier. Lou Gunter's voice sounded a bit tense. What? I said seriously. You don't need me, and I don't need you anymore. There was a long silence on the other end, and after a while, Lou Gunter gritted his teeth and said, think it through before you say it. I interrupted. It seems like our connection has faded. I still can't sleep, Lou Gunter asked. Why? I cleared my throat. Because every time I close my eyes, all I see is you. Lou Gunter, you have to take responsibility. I can't sleep because of you. There was silence for several minutes. Then Lou Gunter spoke, his voice a bit hoarse as if he was holding back something. Come downstairs. Your medicine has arrived. In the dead of night, I sat by the lake in front of the dormitory with Lou Gunter, wearing slippers and freezing. Lou Gunter sighed in frustration, changed positions, and told me to put my feet in his lap. I curled up in my coat, not knowing what to say. Lou Gunter spoke first. I saw the message you sent me a few days ago. What message? The one you retracted. My face turned red, and just as I was about to explain, Lou Gunter gritted his teeth and said, when I saw the message, I jumped up and told my roommate I was single no more. And then you retracted it? What's the deal? Do you need to hesitate? I swallowed my explanation again. Lou Gunter wouldn't let it go. Why are you avoiding me after we got back to school? I replied weakly. Isn't your hypersomnia almost cured? You don't really need me anymore. Besides, they all say you've been getting close with the girl from the neighboring department lately, so I can't help but think about it. Think what the hell? Why scold me instead of just talking nicely? Lou Gunter looked even more aggrieved than I was. That senior sister is very knowledgeable about insomnia. I was just asking her about insomnia-related things. Heh. So, it was for me. Was it necessary? We could solve this together every day. So why was Lou Gunter looking for a way to help both of us? Lou Gunter said, because I hope that even without me, you can sleep well every day. I stared into Lou Gunter's eyes, feeling a bit lost. He then touched his buzz cut and said playfully, now that I have this buzz cut, and a white t-shirt ready in my closet, am I the type you like yet? I leaned in and kissed him. I've liked you for a long time. A few years later, during the new student orientation, one day, I accidentally scrolled through a university's forum, and saw the long-standing post, in dormitory 250, bed 4. Lou Gunter lay on the bed trying several positions, but couldn't get it up. I glanced at Lou Gunter sleeping soundly next to me, and felt he was truly wronged. Since the rumor started with me, I'd put an end to it, so I commented, just to clarify, Lou Gunter isn't just capable, he's amazing. My phone buzzed several times, likely with replies, but I put it down without looking. I turned over and hugged Lou Gunter's 8-pack abs. Back pain. Time to sleep.